Mic drop, Luka Doncic quiets the doubters with a dominant stretch. The script flips. Luka Doncic goes from questioned to unquestionable. It's true that Luka Doncic is a distinct breed. You'll know you're dealing with a unique kind of player when you have someone who has complete control over the game, like Luka.
Hello, Winda! And he wanted to do that! This time it's Dillon Brooks guarding Luka. Back down by Luka. Brooks trying to dig in. This is 1v1. And Luka with the foul!
The NBA community has been talking about Luka Doncic's 73-point outburst against the Atlanta Hawks for the past several days. Instead of praising Doncic for his recent outstanding performances, several media figures bizarrely chose to criticize the Hawks' defensive play and minimize Luka's genius. Some media pundits offended NBA fans, while the majority contrasted Doncic's score with past legendary efforts. This will be all about Luka's exposure to the NBA media. In one of the earlier games, the Phoenix Suns thoroughly embarrassed the Dallas Mavericks at home. Luka Doncic put on an amazing first-half performance, scoring 24 points, but in the second half, he collapsed, leaving the Slovenian star enraged and even forcing his supporters to leave the arena for disparaging him. Kendrick Perkins, a former veteran of the Boston Celtics, gleefully asserted that Luka's fan engagement was only a diversion and delivered a harsh fact about Devin Booker and the embarrassing defeat to the Dallas Mavericks superstar. Although Devin Booker has a lifetime winning record of 10-3 versus Luka Doncic, his worst game against the Dallas Mavericks will always remain a source of regret. Star Stephen A. Smith, let's not go overboard with this. Stephen A. Smith remarked following Luka's 73-point outburst, "This is what the supporters desire." No, that was the league's desire. It was what the league desired. They attributed it to the fans. The supporters want no fouls to be called out and no guys to be mobbed. But what we witnessed in Atlanta last night was not what the fans wanted. Were you able to witness that? That was a layup line. Really. The Hawks, the Atlanta team, that explains why y'all stink. Have you observed their defense tactics from last night? When Philadelphia 76ers star Joel Embiid scored 70 points against the San Antonio Spurs the previous week, Smith had a very different opinion. Joel Embiid conveyed to the other players in the league that he is an incredible brother, and maybe the best big guy in the whole game. Joel is obviously worthy of our attention. He conveyed the idea that he is serious about winning the championship and is not playing around. He's already the MVP of the league. That's the message we believe he's attempting to convey. The disparity between Smith's two identical performances and his attitude towards them infuriated the fans. It was puzzling given that the Hawks are in a playoff position and the Spurs have the poorest record in the Western Conference. What did the commentary panel do? The commentator was accused of racism by several fans. They appear to be saying that since Don is white, Smith is undervaluing his performance. Smith was embraced by fans. Smith's odd interpretation of Don's excellent performance as foolish. It's not the first time either that the expert has minimized the talent of the Dallas Mavericks. A 2019 First Take program explored a fictitious deal involving every NBA player currently in play. Selecting a player to launch a franchise was the aim. Giannis Santo, a prominent player for the Milwaukee Bucks, was first, followed by Dončić. Smith made the absurd argument that Doncic's European heritage was the only reason he was in the top 15 in this fictitious trade. Even back then, the pundits didn't appear to be all that fond of the Mavericks guard. The astounding performances of Del Embiid and Luka Doncic were equally impressive. If the two were to be compared, though, the Mavericks superstar performance came out on top. Neither player had a major edge because both the Hawks and the Spurs were among the worst 5 teams in the NBA in terms of points allowed per game. The 76ers were playing at full strength, while the Mavericks were playing without Kyrie A. Irving. When all the factors are taken into account, it is evident that Doncic's performance was somewhat better than Embiid's, making Smith's contemptuous behavior even more absurd. The Atlanta Hawks' defensive play that evening was criticized by Stephen A. Smith, who also gave them high marks for being in town. You know what? You have a thin Victor Wim on you. So this isn't Joel and B playing Billy Ball. We are aware of that. This is what we anticipate. Karl Anthony Towns did not drop 58 points in the first 3 quarters of this game and then vanish. Even though he scored 58 points in the first 3 quarters, many of those scores came from challenges. Was the APB out for him in the 4th quarter and all of this other stuff? It's not like what happened in Atlanta last night was dishonorable. We had the impression that we were going up against someone who didn't want to. It is not necessary for you to defend. All you have to do is take the offensive. Defense is what you have to do. That's precisely what happened last night in Atlanta. Something is different. You want to see Luka's dominance, don't you? While most players in the league only have 1 or 2 ways to get into a shot, Luka's inventiveness is limitless and will keep the defense on their toes. Learning how to generate shots for yourself in several ways will set you apart from most guys in the game. When the defender slips over to stop him, he might choose to go for a mid-range pull-up instead of serving the crossover to go downhill. He can give the bump twice in order to generate the necessary space between himself and the defender before leaning back to drop it in. In spite of the touch for the foul, he will get cunning and pull the foul to bring the bucket down if you try to ride his hip and remain attached. Luka's inside scoring and distributing abilities have provided all of his value thus far, but his ability to create shots elevates his play to a new level. Luka makes 37% of his shots from deep range and hits on 45% of his 198 efforts from the mid-range. Luka has become an expert at creating space for himself on the court and gaining enough light to take shots. He simply needs a tiny bit of room to fire the shot, and then all you can hope for is that it will miss. Although a lot of current NBA players contend that things have improved over time, still it's undeniable that Dončić and Booker had 2 outstanding outings, and Pierce pines for the days of solid defense. It's unlikely that supporters are grumbling about the NBA's incredible offensive week in the aftermath. Kevin Garnett recently stated that he thinks someone will soon reach 100 points. But during his Basketball Live series, his friend and former Boston Celtics player, Paul Pierce, strongly disagreed with him on the subject. KG approved Garnett was curious as to which would occur first, a player scoring 100 points or a team reaching 200 points. Pierce said, "Ain't nobody ever going to get 100. Garnett argued that if there had been overtime and the game was close, the Philadelphia 76ers star would have received 13 to 15 extra minutes to reach 100 points. He pointed out that Embiid reached 70 points in just 37 minutes of play, and if he had played for 48 minutes, he could have had a chance to get close to 100 points. Pierce countered that no one is scoring 30 points in a quarter. Garnett countered that several players, Chamberlain and Klay Thompson, specifically had already scored 30 points or more in a quarter. Pierce continued by saying that if someone reaches the 100-point barrier, we won't be around anymore. But Garnett was certain of his forecast. He was clinging to the idea that we will soon witness an individual score of 100 and a team surpass the 200-point threshold by citing both contemporary and historical instances. The 2008 NBA champion even made a joke about how many more minutes would need to be played and the introduction of the 4-point shot in order for a player to reach 100 points. KG was not feeling well. Luka Doncic is irrefutable right now, whether you love him or hate him. If he continues this way, he has a good chance of being elected to the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. But Dončić will never be regarded as one of the great legends, like LeBron, Kobe, and others, whom he is striving to emulate, unless he can perform when it matters most in April, May, and June. Luka has had an incredible season, and at 24 he may be just the beginning of a lengthy and illustrious career in basketball. Regarding the season's outlook, it's undeniable that the Mavericks are still a few games out of contention for the championship. But because of Luka Doncic's dominating play, they are under more pressure than ever to act and make use of what they have. That's all, guys. We hope you guys liked the video. For more incredible NBA stuff, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video.